Hello all and welcome back. I hope you're all doing really well. Today obviously has not been a fantastic day, nor the weekend been fantastic either for the cryptocurrency markets in general. However, I think things will start to turn around in the coming weeks. I wanted to touch a little bit more on that today. Obviously cover some Hedera news as well. A quick recap of where Stade is at in terms of the staking metrics, total value locked, and also some XRP and Bitcoin general news. More of a macro market update for you guys, maybe to settle some nerves. Looking at the fear and greed index to begin with, we can see that we're still in extreme fear 24. I'm just continuing to average into my positions and buying. It's the best thing to do over the long term, and it's probably something that should be in your arsenal or your strategy effectively if you're in this for the long term. Obviously, if you're here to make a quick buck and day trade, this won't be suitable for you personally. However, this is why you guys need to make sure you've done your own research, you're holding blue chip projects, potentially as well if you're in any sort of lesser blue chip projects that you were unsure about, I should say. It may be worth looking to close those positions and move them into something slightly more stable that has a bigger and better future. I wanted to cover some more sort of information and key metrics as well in this video. So we can see that the Bitcoin inflows to exchanges is down 20%. So this means that wallets holding Bitcoin outside of centralized exchanges are still just continuing to hold that Bitcoin. They aren't looking to sell. And we can also see that change in the BTC held on exchanges is up 132% over the last day. Therefore, people are buying on centralized exchanges and just holding it within those wallets currently. Now, this typically seems to point to a supply side reduction in Bitcoin. And this is what we see when we see a vast number of people accumulating during a price reduction, which we're currently in. Obviously, the most of the markets are in the red zone. And this is traditionally followed by a large swing towards the upside, which I think we'll see probably happen in the next week or so. In particular as well, if we're looking at Hedera, Hedera's price recently has dropped significantly. It is a fantastic opportunity to average in. I don't think we've seen prices this low now for several months, maybe even sort of 3 to 4 month period since the prices of Hedera have been this low. I am taking this opportunity as a godsend, and I am buying up as much of it as I possibly can at the moment, especially waiting for the DeFi ecosystem to continue developing on Hedera. When we see the DEXs and dApps go live, that's when you can really deploy and maximize the utility of your Hbar, and having more of it is obviously going to be better than having less of it in general. Looking over to this article from Forbes, it's just talking about a bear signal effectively for the crypto markets. Just kind of wanted to give a bit of my thought process behind after reading this. So it's talking about some sort of technical analysis, but the Bitcoin and crypto sell-off comes as the US stock market futures decline ahead of Monday's opening after a long holiday weekend. Investors bracing for a week of major first quarter earnings reports and speeches by the Federal Reserve policymakers. Last week, March's consumer price index, i.e. inflationary figures, showed 8.5% increase from a year ago, the fastest annual gain since December 1981. Obviously, clearly beginning to show that inflation isn't transitory, and that high inflation is something that we may have to brace for over the coming weeks and months into the future. Fed officials have promised to do whatever it takes to bring inflation under control. Well, typically, to curb inflation, there is an inverse relationship between inflation and interest rates. So we will see significant interest rate hikes into the future. Goldman Sachs analysts, though, have warned the Fed will struggle to cool inflation without causing a US recession. Now, the reason this is linked is because if you increase interest rates, obviously payments and the monetary supply changes significantly, and this could curb growth, i.e. signaling for a recession. And they've put the odds of an economy contracting at around 35% over the next 2 years. So 1/3 chance, effectively, that we could see a recession in the United States, and to be honest, the majority of the Western world over the next 2 years. Now, that being said as well, we can see this comment here at the bottom, increasingly concerned about a summer of turbulence and volatility within these markets. And that they're basically talking about, because there's an impending recession, most of these markets could get stomped. I'd like to turn around and say, majority of the time, gold is a hedge against inflation, and more recently, Bitcoin is being used as a hedge against inflation. So I personally don't see there being a better place at the moment to store portions of your wealth, calculated risks being taken in the crypto markets in order to protect yourselves from a recession or non-transitory inflation. That's kind of what we've seen Bitcoin being used as. It's a fantastic store of value, and the same goes for the rest of the crypto markets in the general crypto space. Just my 2 pence worth on that, and interesting to see that they are talking about non-transitory inflation. Moving on to 𝗟𝗓, just wanted to do a quick recap of the platform. So we can see that the APY, obviously you can see in this account, my 𝗥𝗚𝗡𝗥𝗥𝗔𝗟𝗦 5,500 in this wallet currently, one of many. The APY is now at 66%, TVL, so total value locked, is at 275 million. So that has increased, but you guys may be aware that it's now beginning to slow down versus what we'd seen previously. And this is what I had kind of said when I put together those original early models, is that I tried to smooth the growth rate out over a longer period of time. I knew full well that we were going to see a massive spike of adoption in the first couple of weeks, and that will drop off quite substantially. What this means is any of you that have been in early, and it's still not obviously late at all by any means to stake, plenty of videos on my channel showing you how to stake and move your 𝗥𝗚𝗡 from exchanges to Hashpack, for example. I think we'll see some double-figure or double-digit rewards for some weeks into the future now. I don't think this TVL figure will continue to grow at the rate we've seen. As we can see here, the 24-hour change is roughly 5.5%. Some early figures were suggesting that it was growing at around 30% a day, so already reducing the growth rate from 30% down to, say, 6% over the span of about 10 days is quite substantial, and this growth rate will continue to drop off as the weeks go on, potentially only to a couple of percent. After there's some more data available for the growth rate between the phases, unfortunately, DeFi Llama renamed Hedera on their platform, so they lost some of the early days of TVL. Once we have more data points captured, I'm going to do an extrapolated linear regression model for the TVL growth rate to better predict where the APY will end up and try and give you guys more of an understanding of what you can look to expect over the next sort of 4 to 8 weeks, potentially longer out into the future, based on how much data I can get together. But I do generally believe, my gut feeling is telling me, this TVL growth rate will continue to shrink and the APY will stay fairly steady and consistent. I think we'll definitely see very healthy double-digit APYs for several weeks to come. So I'd urge you guys to probably check out some of my other videos if you're not convinced on 𝗟𝗓 and have some questions. Plenty of stuff on that. And if you do want to stake, check out one of my other videos showing you how to do it. It's effectively free rewards backed by the 𝗥𝗚𝗡 Foundation currently. So fantastic opportunity to earn a little bit extra on the side whilst waiting for that price appreciation we're all looking for. Just quickly as well, wanted to cover the Ethereum Merge news. So it's been delayed again despite a successful shadow fork test. So this is a couple of days old now, but just wanted to mention it in general, as obviously Ethereum is a massive layer 1 in the DeFi space. The Ethereum developers report that final tests before the protocol's transition to proof of stake are going well. However, despite the shadow fork being a huge success, they've effectively delayed. This seems very strange, in my opinion. The merge is now scheduled for some time after July. After the merge, the ether that has been locked in the Beacon chain since the late 2020 will be unlocked. There is no set time frame for the unlock, but it's generally anticipated to be a matter of months after the merge. The most recent test processed mainnet transactions on a shadow fork, a subset of proof of work nodes that have been merged with the Beacon chain to process proof of stake transactions. Ethereum naturally has a history of delays. We see here in the past they've suffered with them well back before this one was announced. Something that I definitely will be keeping an eye on. The Ethereum price obviously hasn't been moving very much, 2 and a bit percent. Over the last sort of week or so. I think they're down quite substantially anyway as a token. It would be very interesting to see what happens once this transitions from proof of work to proof of stake and see how it stacks up against the other layer 1 solutions that are already in this space, and whether they have any sort of competitive advantage left after the move does happen. Obviously, the Hbar Foundation themselves are now providing grants to Ethereum developers via their EVM protocols in order to pull across that talent from the Ethereum space over to Hedera. So hopefully we can see a draw from Ethereum to Hedera, especially as the DeFi ecosystem begins to develop at quite a rate. Talking about Bitcoin as well and the general markets and equities, a sort of tweet here from the Bitcoin archive, and it's from Grayscale saying it's only a matter of time now before the SEC approves Bitcoin ETFs. as I mentioned previously, once we see a Bitcoin ETF go live, that is billions upon billions, potentially even trillions of dollars of equity that could flow into the crypto markets. Literally every project within the top 100 will probably do several X towards the upside. These ETFs are absolutely no joke, and as soon as they're available to the widespread public effectively, you'll see pensions, investment grade funds, all sorts of wealth and capital flow into the crypto markets, as there is clearly an itch that needs to be scratched by lots of investors and companies. You've got governments trying to crack down on regulation. You've got companies trying to build blockchain systems and utilize it for the competitive advantage in their own sectors. And then you've got investment banks looking to hold Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies because of the potential that it has going into the future. We are so early, it is ridiculous. And I'm loving every single minute of it. Just wanted to round up this as well, talking about Goldman Sachs again. Huge flood of client interest and people wanting to experiment with crypto, which we can see here. And also another great tweet from Blockworks summarizing my earlier point, saying what happens to gold and crypto if the Fed raises its inflation target from 2% to 3%, they both go higher. That's typically what we'll see. They're hedges against inflation. If inflation increases, gold and Bitcoin will increase alongside them, and that the same could be said for the rest of the crypto markets in general. Incredibly bullish news. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. More content coming this week. My talk with MetaStable has been pushed back to Friday, so he can give me more information as they're pending some contracts that need to be signed. So we'll have a great chat on Friday, which I'll get that uploaded. And also sometime this week, I'll be showing you guys how to buy Dovu on Uniswap, so the Ethereum chain, and then use the Hashport service to migrate those Dovu tokens to the Hedera token service. So make sure you're subscribed for those videos. If you enjoyed this video, drop a like, leave a comment if you guys have got something to say. Make sure you follow me over on Twitter as well. Lots going on over there. Nearly at 600 followers, which is fantastic. Anyway, until then, I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.